Good morning and welcome back to Life is Great, where every Sunday morning we get together, we examine another universal value that is derived from Judaism and see how your life can be the absolute best. Today is a special edition. We will be talking about one of the most famous stories of all of mankind. A story where Moses is commanded by God to go to Egypt, release the children of Israel from a house of bondage, lead them to receive the 10 Commandments and the Torah on Mount Sinai, wander through the desert for 40 years and enter the land of Israel. Yes, this is a special Passover edition of Life is Great. Today's program focuses on one of the defining moments of human history. It is the story of the redemption of the Jewish people from a house of bondage, from slavery in Egypt. Now, perhaps you've seen the movie, The Prince of Egypt, or The 10 Commandments. Both of those do a good job of giving you the basic rundown, but neither of them will do as good a job as reading the book, a Torah scroll, reading the 5 books of Moses. When we do that, then we really understand exactly what happened. All right, let's share the story and we'll take a snapshot. As promised to Abraham 400 years earlier, the Jewish people would be slaves. And when the Jewish people were slaves, remember, that's like them living in basically a concentration camp. It's like the Jewish people living in Auschwitz. And one of the primary figures who takes place in this whole story is Moses. Moses was a Jewish boy. He was born at a time when Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, had decreed that all the Jewish males should be killed. Moses' mother took the infant, hid the infant for as long as she could, and then put this infant in a basket. The basket was floating down the Nile River, and the baby was saved by the daughter of Pharaoh, the daughter of the king. Moses was brought into the palace and raised as an Egyptian aristocrat. He still knew, however, his Jewish roots, and when he looked out and saw the suffering of the Jewish people, he went out to assuage their suffering. Well, that in essence was treason against his stepfather, his adoptive father, the king of Egypt. Moses had to pick up and run away. Went to a place called Midian. When he was in Midian, he met his wife, got a job taking care of his father-in-law's sheep. And one day, when one of those sheep ran up to the hills, Moses followed that sheep and encountered something which became known as the burning bush. From this bush, Moses got prophecy. He spoke almost face to face with the Almighty. And God said, Moses, go to Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Moses, after a certain amount of reluctance, accepted that mission, went back, met up with his brother Aharon, and Moses and Aaron stood before Pharaoh and demanded the release of the Jewish people. Pharaoh got very angry, and he actually intensified the suffering of the Jewish people. Well, under the direction of the Almighty, Moses and Aaron brought 10 plagues that basically destroyed the entire Egyptian economy, eventually the nation, and eventually the people themselves. Starting, of course, with the famous plague, the plague of blood, turning all the Nile River to blood, and continuing on. Continuing until you get to the 10th plague. Now this is important because this is the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, and it's actually where we get the name of our holiday, Passover. The 10th plague was a destruction of the firstborn of Egypt. Every Jew had to stop and, take a lamb. We're going to take that lamb, slaughter that lamb, take the blood of that lamb, and put it on the inside of the doorpost. Not the outside, the inside. And the Jewish people would have a dinner that night, and they would look at the blood that was on the doorpost, and they would remember that they are the Jewish people. They have a national mission. And then God sent an angel of death. And the angel of death literally passed over. It says in the Torah that when the angel of death realized that there was the blood on the doorpost, he literally passed over the Jewish homes. And in every Egyptian home, the firstborn Egyptian was killed, and in every Jewish home, the firstborn of every Jewish person was saved. That is what destroyed Egypt. The next morning, the Jewish people pick up. They leave Egypt. Eventually, they get pressed against the Red Sea, Sea of Reeds, and the Almighty split the sea. The Jewish people crossed the sea in dry land. The remnant of the Egyptian army was drowned in their pursuit of the Jewish people. And the Jewish people continued on to Mount Sinai to receive the Ten Commandments and the Torah, led by a pillar of fire at night and a cloud of glory during the day. That is the essence of the story. Now, when we stop and we look at that story, we say, what is it really about? What are we supposed to get out of this nice story? And as I always tell you, learning Torah, learning the Bible is not entertainment. It might be entertaining sometimes, but it's not meant for entertainment. It's meant to enhance our lives. The Torah, the Bible, it's instructions for living. It's to tell us how to get the most out of life. See, most of us wake up in the morning, you take a shower, you go to work, you kiss the kids, you spend your day doing whatever you're doing, you come home, you watch TV and you go to bed. But we say that God implanted in every single day a particular opportunity, a spiritual opportunity. And this implant was placed in the creation of the universe. So that every year, every day of every year has a particular spiritual opportunity. And when God created these opportunities, there was one opportunity that we call cherut, or freedom in English. The national manifestation of this concept of freedom was the Jewish people picking up and leaving Egypt. But that concept of freedom exists on a personal level and on a national level every single year on that particular date, the date that Passover falls on. So therefore, when we get to the holiday of Passover, you have to know that you have inside of you a great opportunity. And it's an opportunity to become free from anything that is holding you back. And I want to ask you the question, what is holding you back? Is there anything that you are enslaved to? I went out to one of my favorite coffee beans and I asked some of you if you actually thought that you were enslaved, or you thought that there was something you needed to become free from in order to accomplish your life the way you truly wish to accomplish it. Let's see what some of you had to say. Dominic, are you familiar with the story of Moses leading the Jewish people out of Egypt?
Yes, I am.
Does it have significance for you?
It does have significance for me because, Moses got to lead his people out and, he was banned and was brought all the way down to his knees, and then he got to get powerful again, lead his people out, and God the Father left him out of Egypt.
So do you find that inspiring, or how does it work?
Of course it's inspiring because, it obviously inspires me in a way because I feel like God watches over me in a sense, just like he did with Moses. And, because I've been through a lot of hardships in my life, so that's how it has significance to me.
Is there anything that you would like to be free from that you think is holding you back from being the best person you could be or the most accomplished person you could be?
Probably fear of failure.
Okay. Do you think that is fear of failure a type of thing that could enslave a person, keep a person back?
I guess so.
Okay. What is the difference in your personal freedom from living in Russia to living here?
To be honest, I feel more free in Russia.
How so?
United States these days remind me a little bit of Soviet Union when I was small.
Okay.
All what you can see around that these countries provide freedom to other countries. We more or less feel more, we're like more liberal system.
Beautiful.
When nobody push on you with anything, when you just feel free and you enjoy life, and yeah, that's
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. Let's continue on with this theme of freedom. Most of you know that Passover is one of the most observed holidays in all of Judaism. And not only that, the way we observe it is we have something called a Passover Seder. And the Passover Seder is led with a Haggadah. This is the guidebook. It's a beautiful book. The word Seder literally means order. And if you really want to connect with the meaning of Passover, you'll understand that there's an order to becoming free from whatever we need to become free from. Perhaps more so than any other book in all of Jewish liturgy, there are more commentaries on the Passover Haggadah than anything else. Because freedom, this idea of freedom, takes a very different shape in every generation. And not only that, every person, in a certain sense, has their own Haggadah. Because as we've discovered by the discussion of the people of Coffee Bean, and as you would answer your question of what is holding you back, everybody has a different challenge in life. And if the point of Passover is to recognize that God is intimately involved in our lives, and it's God who frees the Jewish people, and therefore it's God who frees us from that which is holding us back, then because we all have slightly different issues, and because every single year our issues are slightly different because we are different, then that means that everyone will have a slightly different commentary on the basic guidebook called the Haggadah. So one of my favorite Haggadahs, the commentary on the Haggadah was written by a fellow, his name is Dr. Abraham Twersky. The name of the Haggadah is From Bondage to Freedom. And Rabbi Twersky has a side gig. He's a medical doctor, and he runs a treatment center for alcoholics. And so he writes in the introduction to his Haggadah that his Haggadah is written, his commentary is written through the glasses of someone who's treating people with addiction. And he says the following story that inspired him to write his Haggadah. He said that one time, one of his patients, who was Jewish, was sitting at his Passover Seder, the dinner. And the father's reading the Haggadah and talking about how at one time the Jewish people, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and God came and redeemed us. And then this patient said, Dad, I got to tell you something. I am still a slave. Father said, what are you talking about? He goes, I am a slave to the bottle. I'm a slave to drink. And every single day, it haunts me. And every single day, I struggle to break free from that. And then we understand, if you look at it in that perspective, you understand how you can break free from it. What is holding you back? Maybe it's laziness. Maybe a person has a desire for gambling. Maybe a person has an uncontrolled desire for food or for sex. Or maybe it's their ego. Maybe they're arrogant. Maybe a person has certain insecurities. And all of these things are kind of holding them back. When we observe the Passover holiday, and we get into the reading the Haggadah and the symbolism that I'll explain with you in just a few moments, when we understand what this symbolism is all about and these rituals, then we learn that in the same way that God redeemed the Jewish people back then, He also can redeem us today. And therefore, we can really push beyond those things that are holding us back. All right, so we have two major symbols in Passover. Something we eat and something we do not eat. The thing we do not eat is bread. Something like this. But it's not just bread, it's chametz. Chametz is anything that's made of wheat, barley, spelt, oats, or rye that comes into contact with water for 18 minutes or more and left unmanipulated. See, if you took wheat flour, put it together with water, leave it alone for 18 minutes, it'll puff up. That's what's going to happen to it. But it doesn't have to be bread. It could be crackers, it could be cereal, Wheaties. It could be liquid, beer, or whiskey, scotch. All of that is chametz. None of that we are allowed to eat on Passover. What do we eat? Well, on Passover we eat matzah. Matzah is also made of wheat, barley, spelt, oats, or rye. It comes into contact, but it's baked within 18 minutes. And when you bake it within 18 minutes, you could make it a little flat, a little puffier if you wanted. Could be a little puffier. But our custom is to make our matzahs very quickly, very fast, within 18 minutes, and it doesn't rise up. So we eat matzah, and we don't eat bread. Why not? What's the symbolism behind them? So the symbolism of chametz, and chametz is, essence of chametz is, again, it's anything that is puffy, it's leaven. It's a few things. In order to make this piece of bread, you have to let it sit. You take the water, you take the flour, put it together, and you have to let it sit. And then it becomes chametz. Bread has the symbolism of laziness, of just sitting around and doing nothing. And when we just kind of sit around, do nothing, so then we become enslaved. It also is symbolic of our desires. It's symbolic of something of ego and arrogance. It's very puffy. There's nothing in here. There's nothing in here. Then it puffs back out, right? Puffs back out. You think of Wonder Bread. You can take a whole Wonder Bread and squeeze it together, and then it'll puff back out, turn into dough. It's very pompous. It's symbolic of arrogance. On the same time, when we take matzah, so matzah is flour and water and baked fast. It's back to basics. What am I living for? So, on one hand, I have bread, my ego, my arrogance. There's nothing wrong with ego and arrogance and fluffiness and a little, nothing wrong with that for 51 weeks a year. But in order to get yourself in check, you got to get back to basics. Getting back to basics, what's important in my life, that helps us become free for the rest of the year. So, if we can take this message, just on that first level, your life has changed. Because you have to stop. On Passover, get back to basics. Go to your Passover dinner. Go to your Seder. And understand what exactly is our life about. What do I need to become free? What do I need to get out of my desires? What do I need to get out of my laziness? What do I need to get out of the things that are extra in my life? How can I stop and how can I refocus and say, these are the things that are my luxuries, these are the things that are my necessities. And when we hone it back in, then perhaps we will realize that a lot of the things that we feel are necessities are actually luxuries, and we will no longer be bound to them. So we're going to continue by cleaning out all the chametz from our lives. And this is going to lead us to the next thing we want to talk about, something called bedikas chametz, the checking for chametz. Everybody knows that we spend a lot of time cleaning before Pesach. It's not spring cleaning, it's spiritual cleaning as well. When we go into the cabinets to prepare for Passover, and we get rid of all the bread and the cereal and the pasta, and we get rid of all the things like the beer and the whiskey, and we're taking these things out of the pantry and putting in boxes, and then we take it out to the garage, or we throw it out, we're not just physically cleaning, we're spiritually cleaning. We are getting rid of our puffiness, our arrogance, our desires, all that stuff, and we're getting to the point of saying, okay, what do I really need? Then for many of us, what we do is we go in and we take the dishes that we normally use for the rest of the year. Well, we tape those up so that we don't use them, put them in the cabinets, tape the cabinets closed so that we don't use any of those dishes, and we have our own special Passover dishes. Because the reality is, in Jewish law, is one crumb of chametz on Passover is destructive to our souls. We are only focusing on matzah. Matzah is good for our souls for those 8 days of Passover. And chametz is bad for our souls for the 8 days of Passover. How much do we stay away from chametz? We stay away from even a molecule we don't eat. It might sound a little harsh, but if you understand how beneficial it is to get our egos and our arrogance and our sense of desire in check, if you understand how beneficial it is to us to understand this is what I need and this is what I live with, it is extremely freeing. It's not just a function of a person who's an alcoholic and he says, okay, now I'm going to become sober. Perhaps that's how you even have to view it. How beneficial is it for someone who is addicted to drugs or alcohol or food, and then all of a sudden they're able to become sober? They're able to get their desire in check. That's what we're doing on Passover. That's the opportunity on Passover. So we have to clean out everything we have, and then the night before Passover, we are going to do something called a bedikas chametz. So, in just a moment, we're going to come back, and I'll meet you in my office. And you can see exactly how I would do a bedikas chametz on the night before Passover, a checking for chametz. Don't go away. My name is Rabbi Yitzwine. You're watching Life is Great. Welcome back. So, after a person had cleaned out their pantry of all of the chametz, and they've searched through their entire house, and their car and their office. And they've said, hey, you know what? I basically have taken out all of the chametz, all the bread, all the leaven from my possession, and I've removed it. Then you do, on the night before Pesach, you do something called a bedikas chametz, a search for chametz. So what we do is we take 10 bags, small bags, put a little bit of bread in each one of those bags, and have someone go around and place those bags throughout the house. And then after nightfall, we turn the lights on, we light a candle. The candle is here so it'll give light inside of all the different crevices in the house, and we search for those bags. And believe it or not, you probably will find some things that you did not know were there. So, welcome to my office, and of course, I have to do a bedikas chametz, a search for chametz in my office as well. So, come on around, and I'll search around. I'll stand up, I'll go, first I'll look over the bookshelf, I'll look over here, goes, okay, I don't really see any chametz over here. I did a pretty good job of cleaning it out beforehand, right? But then, let's look under the desk, because I really have not cleaned under my desk before Pesach. All right, so as I come in under my desk, I got my candle, I'm looking, and look at this. Oh my goodness, look what I found. Couple things. This bag of food that was left over from Purim. Let's see what's in there. I see crackers, I see chocolates, things that are not kosher for Passover. I'm going to get rid of that stuff. Now look at this. Someone gave me a gift, a little bottle of scotch. Okay, I'll keep it. It's 12 years, it's nice. Okay, so now something that that is unopened, well, you know what I can do is I can actually, and it's valuable, what I can do is I actually can put it away in a pantry and I can sell it. There are people, we process this at the synagogue, a young Israeli, we actually sell our chametz that is in unopened packages, we sell them to non-Jews for the holiday of Passover. We will do that. In terms of some of this chametz, I have two options with this. One option is, I can take it right now, throw it out, and then I'm done with it. Option number 2 is going to take place tomorrow morning. All right, so now in the morning of Passover. So Passover always begins at night, as we've explained, that every Jewish holiday begins at night because in the story of creation, God says God created night and day. Day 1, God created night and day 2. So because God creates the night first, that means that every Jewish day begins at nightfall. Well, in the morning preceding Passover, we take those 10 bags that we found, we gather them together, and we destroy the chametz. Now, there's 3 ways you can destroy the chametz. You can burn it, you can crumble it and scatter it in the wind, or you can scatter it in the ocean. You can melt in the ocean. But again, the getting rid of the chametz, getting rid of this bread, it's not just about removing the physical bread out of our possession. It's also about removing the schmutz in our souls. It's about getting our ego and our arrogance. And I know some people, they actually write down on a piece of paper a list of all the things that they feel are holding them back from becoming the greatest people they can possibly be. And when they go together in the morning before Passover, they take the bread, they put it together, and they burn it. They burn that list too. Now, when they burn it, it's very freeing, and they recite these words. They say, any chametz that is in my possession, which I did or did not see, which I did or did not remove, shall be nullified and become ownerless like the dust of the earth. This is the idea that whatever chametz I found, I got rid of, because I'm not even going to eat even a molecule all 8 days. And whatever I did not find, then I'm saying it should be ownerless and like dust of the earth, so it actually has no impact on my soul. It's not even mine. So therefore, even if I walk in to my house in the middle of Passover, and I see a package there that came in the mail, and someone sent me some nice cookies and brownies, you know what? It's ownerless. It's like dust of the earth. I didn't know it was there. And now I picked it up. Say, it's not even mine. Now there is many fantastic stories to illustrate this point. But I want to share with you one particular point of Berditchev Rebbe. He was a great rabbi who lived a couple hundred years ago in the European town of Berditchev. And one day before the Passover Seder, the entire town communities gathered together. And he said, before we begin our Passover Seder, I want you to divide up in a few different groups. Took one group, he said, I want you to go out and bring me all the Turkish tobacco you can find in Brzezinski. He went to another group and said, I want you to bring me all the Austrian silk you can find in the town of Brzezinski. And he turned the third group of people and he said, go to every Jewish home and find any crumb, any bit of bread or chametz, bring all these things to me, and then we will begin our Passover seders, our Passover dinners. Well, the first two groups, they protested. They said, Rebbe, you know that the Tsar is against he's at war with Turkey and Austria, and tobacco and silk, these things are contraband. And the other group said, Rebbe, you know it's already Passover, the sun is set. No one owns, nobody has any kind of chametz with them. He said, please go out and come back. After you come back, we will begin our seders. Well, the first group comes back with barrels and barrels and barrels of Turkish tobacco. The next group comes back with rolls and rolls of Austrian silk. Third group, they wait an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Finally, they come back. And they said, Rebbe, we searched thoroughly through every single Jewish home in this town. We could not find one crumb of chametz. Whereupon the rabbi turned his eyes heavenward and said, Almighty Master of the universe, look how devoted the Jewish people are to your words. For the Tsar, that he has armies with guns, he is unable to enforce his will upon his population. But you, with just 7 words that are mentioned in the Torah, in the Bible, that prohibits a Jew from eating or even owning any kind of chametz on Passover, your Jewish people strive, and they do not even involve themselves in one crumb of bread. I want to wish you a very happy, healthy, and kosher Passover. Now, next week, what I will do is we'll go through the Haggadah. This is another form of a Haggadah. The Passover Seder it's the book that teaches us the lessons we need to learn in order to truly use the holiday and find meaning and purpose. If you are going to be at a Passover Seder, if you are going to run a Passover Seder, then don't miss next week's episode of Life is Great, because at that time, we will share with you how to have the most meaningful and powerful Passover Seder you've ever had. I'm Rabbi Yitzwine of Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas, and your host here on Life is Great. And I want to thank you for being part of today's program. If you value today's program, or if you value the Rabbi Show, our radio broadcast, or if you send your friends to any of the YouTube broadcasts by going to my YouTube channel, Yitzwine, then please help support this program. There are many people that work very hard to take these important values and share them with you and as many people as possible. But it is only possible through your generous support. So therefore, I encourage you to go to therabbishow.com and make some kind of donation, because everything that you do is important and helps us bring more goodness to the world. Thank you.